Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talks at Google. My name is Brindusha Jimenez, and I have the absolute pleasure of talking to Digit Murphy today. Today, I will be having a conversation with her for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. I'm particularly honored because today is Women's Entrepreneurship Day, and I couldn't think of anybody better to have this conversation with than Digit. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's currently president and coach of the first National Women's Hockey League franchise in Canada, Toronto Six. Formerly head coach of the Boston Blades, with whom she won 2 Clarkson Cups and Cullen Red Star in the Canadian Women's Hockey League. Before the Blades, she was the head coach of Brown University Women's Ice Hockey Program, and she became the most victorious coach in Division I women's ice hockey history during her 18th season at Brown between 06 and 07. Finishing her NCAA coaching career with 318 career wins. She was the first female coach for women's hockey at Brown. She's got over 20 years of coaching experience, coaching Olympians and all athletes and all Americans. But beyond this, Digit has really broken ground for women's professional sports. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's founded Play It Forward Foundation and Proven Winners. And she has created women's opportunity in the professional lacrosse space, co-founding United Women's Lacrosse League. Digit, welcome to the talk, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, baby, I'm ready to be here with you guys out at Google. Hey, Google land, what's going on, kids? I'm laughing because like when we were off stage, and by the way, thank you, Dennis, for getting me this opportunity. And I don't know if Bryn, if they know Dennis, but Dennis works at Google now, Dennis Yu. And he was my intern at the Boston Blades. And we gave him an opportunity. And now he's returned the favor, which is what life is all about. But I'm going to say one more thing about my intro. Number one, it means I'm old with all that information that you gave. And number two, when you were saying 20 years experience, I'm going, oh my God, it's 35, it's almost 40. So anyways, I'm just coming in with lots of information for you guys, and I'm ready to take this in whatever direction you want to take it, Bryn. So thanks for having me.
Digit, every time we talk, I've had the pleasure of talking to you a couple of times already. You bring so much energy. It just oozes through the screen. And I think everybody can also feel it on live stream right now.
Yeah, baby.
Can we just start there? Especially in a year with 2020, with so many surprises, so many highs and lows. How do you do it? Where do you find just this zest for life every day?
I don't know. I just grew up like this. Like I was born like this. I was born to be active. You know, I was always a sports person. But I was thinking about today when my son called me because I think I think I told you I have 6 kids and a partner, and it kind of makes you have a lot of energy when you have children, right? You know, you just have to get up every morning. You have to be attentive to them. But I guess when I was born, I was like this. But then when I became a mother, it went on overdrive, right? Because now you're taking care of people. And I've always been a caretaker of people. And it kind of happened with my family. Then it went with teams and, coaching. It's taking care of your whole team as a family. So I think just a lot of energy in my life.
Yeah.
And we talked about habits. Like, I have a lot of healthy habits now, right? We've talked earlier. And I'm a almost vegan. I think you guys will like that. The younger generation, I'm plant-based. I'm a very habitual person. I get up at the same time every day and I drink the same amount of water. So I think it's all like habits and what you bring to the table.
Yeah,
so I do that.
A combination of, I guess, what your responsibility is almost gives you the energy, and then with developing healthy habits.
Yeah, and it goes back and forth, right? It's funny, like even these kind of podcasts, I love being on. Like I can talk for hours by myself, but it's so much more fun and engaging to be with people, right?
Absolutely.
And during COVID, I love this Zoom tool because you can Zoom with everyone. Like even people, I remember like my neighbors that I haven't seen in years, this summer, we were doing like Zoom cocktail parties, like in the summer. And it was fun because they didn't have to get in their car and drive to us. So I guess you got to make your fun, right? You got to make your life. And that's
Yeah.
what I've always been able to do. I'm just like a kid, you know?
But Digit, you have an impressive way of, I think, always seeing the glass half full and pulling the fun and making your own fun. But in your experience, especially in the beginning, right, when you were starting out, having your career, before you got all of the accolades, before anybody kind of knew who you were, I want to touch on resilience a little bit. Take us maybe through some of the difficult moments at the start of your career, and some tips on how you build up this resilience.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, it started way before, you know, the career, right? It started, I think, back when I couldn't wear the Little League jersey because I was a girl. I couldn't believe the audacity of someone to tell me I, as a girl who was really good on the sandlot playing Little League with the boys, and all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, sorry, you can't play. You're a girl." I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, I hit home runs all day long. You don't want me on your team? So I think that was the first, like, they told me no, I couldn't do that, and I got pretty ticked off. But you know, my mom wasn't one of those, you know, people that went up and stormed City Hall, which is interesting because I am. And that was my first kind of stint in being told no. And then subsequently, all my athletic experiences took me to hockey, basketball, volleyball, anything that had a ball I was playing. And I got recruited to go to Cornell. And then I kind of got this massive influx of confidence as an Ivy League woman, having that opportunity to go to college, you know, because I played sports, has kind of made me appreciate and be grateful for what I was given. And then now part of my life is giving back to that. But to answer your question about resilience and how do you keep going? You know, it's kind of this, like, I don't want to say righteousness, but in your being, you know that it's the right thing to keep going, and it's having a confident attitude that, you know, deep down you're right, and no matter what people say, as long as you're respectful, you know, you're going to be okay. And that's kind of how I've lived my life. So when I left Brown, that was a really tough time for me, right? Because you saw all the numbers that we put up.
Yeah.
And I had gone up, and then we went a little down, and no one can stay anywhere for 25 years. And I was heartbroken, right? I was like, oh my God, I'm 50 years old. What am I going to do? My whole identity was tied into Brown. And, you know, a little depressed at the time. Digit Murphy never gets depressed, but I was a little depressed, even though I hit it, right? And then, boom, I got the opportunity to coach the Blades. A couple of my friends reached out to me and said, Dig, why don't you go do this? The Olympians are going to be housed in Boston. It'd be a great opportunity. I reinvented myself, coached Olympians, won a couple of Clarkson Cups, coached junior hockey, which made me a better coach. You know, and I think the moral of the story is not only resilience, but turning a positive into a negative, right? A negative into a positive. How do we do that as people? How do we look at change as not a bad thing, but a good thing? And that's just a couple of things. I mean, I have other stories I could tell you about, you know, people stealing business models and all that. But you know what? At the end of the day, people are going to be people. You need to accept them and move the path that you want to move. And we talked about The Alchemist, right? That book. And I mean, if people are the universe conspires to help you if you follow your true north. And that's kind of the messaging that I've had my whole life.
Yeah. I appreciate your vulnerability. And tell me, so in the time after Brown and until you got your new opportunity and your friend called you, it was just what kind of maintaining the attitude and maybe the faith that something will come along, and kind of that confidence that it's okay, this gap will be bridged somehow. I might not know now, but it will come.
And it was, you know, and part of my strategy, and I know we talked about this earlier and we can segue into it, was, you know, I had a year runway money and I negotiated out of my contract with Brown with a whole year, right, to launch something new. And I think a lot of people just hope for the best, or maybe have emergency funds set aside. But at the end of the day, if a bad thing happens and you have any kind of leverage, you have to take it. And I don't think women in general, and people in general, but women in general don't understand their value or the leverage they have. And my leverage, quite frankly, at 50 years old, leaving Brown, was that history of, really unbelievable teams, the alumni base, being a woman in her 50s, which, you shouldn't be like, doing bad things to those kind of people, because we know HR nightmare. Gay. I mean, I had the trifecta. I was gay, female, over 50. And I was like, that's got to be worth something. So for 1 year, I didn't work, and I had that runway money to build my next phase of life. And I think a lot of women in general don't understand their value to companies. They need to understand their value, and then they need to use that and not be afraid to have the conversation.
Yeah, I think you touch on two things here. One is, especially as a woman, having that confidence when you're at the table to hold up your value and what you really bring. And I think the other piece that we're touching on is pay equity, how to make sure that you're valuable in that sense. And I know that you have some pretty strong thoughts, having worked a lot with pay equity in professional sports for women, right? So tell me a little bit about maybe advice that you can give, especially younger women, on how to show up, how to kind of have the courage to state their value to their employers, to somebody else if they're entrepreneurs.
It's not even just younger women, it's women in general, right? I mean, but young women especially, because for whatever reason, we don't find our voice. I don't think I found mine till I was probably 35. I faked it till I made it. I was a coach. I was like a taskmaster. I would yell, but to really find my authentic voice, it was a little later. But, when you're going in, number one, you need to recognize your value. And when you recognize that, you need to then use some negotiation skills to do that. Like, you have to be armed when you go into a negotiation to not just take the first number. And I think as women, we're just like, oh my God, thank you. We got a job. Someone likes me. And I think you got to turn it around and be like, hey, I'm going to be really good for your organization. So I think women are just kind of in their infancies and making, big money or any money, right? I mean, I always tell the story that if you really look back on it, like, women didn't have access to their own checking accounts till the 50s and 60s. Yeah. Like, their husband had to sign it. Like, come on. So we're just really getting into that wealth building place. Unfortunately, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it is what it is. So when you go in, you need to leverage what you do have, which is a valuable skill. Don't take the first number. Have backup for reasons why, right? You can't take that number. I mean, maybe you're moving across the country. Maybe there's travel costs. Like, we never think as people at the low end of the totem pole that we can negotiate. And I'm telling you, women out there and young people that have a skill, you are valuable. Understand your value and go in armed. I can't remember the book that I read. It's really good. It's written by the Black Swan Group or something. It was about a hostage negotiator. And I read that book and it changed my life. And I can't believe I can't remember it right now, but I'll get it to the notes. We can put it in the notes later.
Sounds good. Maybe it'll come to you by the time we end.
Yeah.
At Google this week, we had a theme.
Oh, I got it.
Tell me.
Never split the difference.
Never split the difference. That is a very popular book. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. At Google this week, we held an I Am Remarkable week that is really geared to empowering women to speak up to their value and why we are each remarkable. And so I hope a lot of Googlers tuned into that and kind of find the confidence to speak up, like you say, and to own their worth. You also talked about kind of being authentic, right? Authentic to what you bring in and authentic to yourself. And I know that in your life, professional and personal, right? You've gone through all sorts of different inflection points and transitions, and you have evolved. So, and you talk about kind of, around 35, finding your voice. I'm around that age too, and I can relate to what you're saying. And sometimes I develop myself in a way that maybe might not sit well with others in my life. Maybe I'm taking a different turn, right? So I want to hear more about finding the courage to be who you are, because I don't think the majority of people are nearly as authentic, and that's how you really show up your best self in life. So tell me more about kind of authenticity.
Well, first of all, you're awesome. I would hire you in a minute. I can just see it. Like, you resonate like this great energy. So keep doing what you're doing.
Might be on right now, so I can't say that.
No, but keep doing what you're doing. It's really interesting because sometimes I feel like a little bit of an anomaly because I remember one day I had this conversation with my boss, and I'm always like going all Digit Murphy on people. I'm like, because I'm Italian, and I throw my arms up in the air, and sometimes I swear, and I'm like, you know what? You don't know what it's like to be me. I look like a woman, but I act like a man. No, at the end of the day, they don't like that. They don't like that. You're a woman, you have to be in the box, and you have to be compliant, and you have to be this. So my whole life, I've never fit into anything. I played with GI Joes when I was little. I didn't play with Barbie dolls. I cut my hair short. And I had this confidence internally, I think, that came from sport and being able to hit a baseball better than anyone else. And I just rode that. So I think be the best you in what you can be. And that is going to create, like, don't be fake. And I think so many people look at Instagram or they look at other things and they want to be that. Just be you and be the best you, and then everything will work out. And don't try to be something you're not, even if it's in the profession, right? That makes so much money. Like, if you find yourself in a job that you don't want to do, don't do it. Go find a different one. Don't complain. Find a solution to the problem. And I know it's easy to say and hard to do, but if you really want to do it, you're going to do it. I was talking to someone the other day that was going through a transition in her job, and, she's making a couple of excuses, and I'm like, I don't want to hear that, right? How are you going to get to where you want to be? Don't make an excuse, make a plan. And just those little reminders, and have a friend, have a support person that is going to tell you like it is, not what you want to hear. And I think that those little tricks can really help. And be a good listener. Sometimes I'm not a good listener. I'm not going to lie. I'm a good talker, not a good listener. So I've tried to be a better listener. I do meditation. I try to notice things, evolve. People don't evolve, let's evolve. So anyways, I don't know if that answered your question, but I just went on a roll. I want to rant.
It does. I mean, don't try to be like others. There's a lot of power in being unique and what makes you you. But you touched on intersectionality, which I've been thinking a lot about, especially with kind of the racial justice. I also lead a women's employee resource group at Google. And I realized that in that capacity, even though I lead a team of women, everybody is different in their own right. They don't look like me. They don't come from the same background. And I have to recognize that we're not just women. We are a different kind of mix, right? And when you think of intersectionality, race and gender and background and sexual orientation and all of these things, how can we be more inclusive of everybody and just, not gravitate to people that look like us or stereotype because, we share one common aspect, but just take them for the whole of who they are?
It's the easiest answer. It's one word. It's love, right? It's like, how do you love life? How do you love other people? How do you love experiences? And you don't judge, just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean you hate them. Like, it's about learning every day. It's about getting up and being happy and loving. And I just think people get on that hater mindset. It's that negative talk, and it's pretty simple. And everyone's like, oh, everyone can't be like you and all this energy. I'm like, yeah, you can. You decide to look at the world or the glass half empty or half full. And when you look at it half full, or you look at how grateful you are, like even today, like I'm on the phone with my son, and he's getting a little sorry for himself or sad. And I'm like, Shawnee, like, think of this is the worst problem you have, right? This is the worst problem you have. And people are homeless. They can't eat. they're in Afghanistan, wherever they are, like, in a war zone. So I think it's really just accepting where you are in life and being grateful for what you have. And I think once you think of life like that, you can think of treating others like that. And it's just a snowball effect. It's loving other people and empathizing with them where they are in their life and helping them, help people. Like every day I'm like, okay, what do you got? I'll help me. Like I told you, I was going to put my phone number on my name right there and be like, hey, you guys want to talk? Text me. I try to be open to as many people as I can because that's the only way to change the world through love and
Yeah.
liking people. Sorry, I'm off on my rant again.
Not at all. No, I think what you're saying is that you actually it comes from some inner confidence of who you are. That way you can be more accepting of others.
I don't know about that. I think, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think it's more about, it's not even confidence. It's just accepting. It's being accepting of other people, no matter who they are, what they look like, black, white, gay, straight, fat, skinny. It doesn't matter. They're a person. Yeah. And they're a person first. They're an idea second. And we need to have empathy for everyone and respect everyone. And that's one of the core values of the Toronto Six, right? From our team, we built a team out of education, inclusion, and empowerment. And the inclusive piece of it is everyone matters. Every opinion matters, but as a coach, you can sit here and take everyone's opinion in, but you're not going to everyone's not going to have consensus. I'm going to have the ultimate say. Sure. So I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty simple solution. I think people complicate it by bringing in their own agendas. If your agenda is getting along, accepting people for who they are, getting them on the mission, whether it's winning a hockey game, whether it's doing a task at work, this is the mission. This is what we're doing. Accept everyone's opinion. But other people have to be able to hear the word no. They need to be a team player. They need to collaborate. I mean, people need to just get on the bus in certain situations and be led.
Yeah, I mean, I find that sometimes people are a little scared of people that are not like them, and they become a little afraid. And I don't know, leaders like yourself that can bring communities together are exceptional, and we need more of that in the world.
Yeah, fear. It's funny, you say that and I'm like, oh yeah, what is that? Because, in my life, it's I'm afraid of everything, but I just try to embrace whatever energy I have. I was reading the book 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins, right?
One of my
and she's like, oh my God, when I get on stage, I'm afraid. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes my heart starts to pump, but I look at it same way as she is. I'm like, yep, going into the game, man. This is just me controlling my energy. And, I think that that's what fear is. Like, you got to turn the fear into a positive. And I think people are fearful of people that don't look like them, don't sound like them, don't act like them. But I think if you just put yourself in the lowest common denominator, that they're a person, and sticks and stones, can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. You just kind of like get into that mindset and accept the energy that they're giving to you.
Yeah. In one of your earlier comments, you actually touched on some leadership principles that you have, right? Or success principles. I know you have 3 success principles, and I would love it if you would share with everybody and take us through those a little bit.
Well, there's so many things that, that I try to put together whenever I'm doing a talk or whenever I'm talking to people. My biggest brand as a brand for Digit Murphy is opportunity, right? We have to create opportunity for everyone using sports as the platform. But I think educating people is important. So education's a common principle, whether it be in school, whether it be, educating someone on your perspective. Inclusion, and I talked about it earlier, having an inclusive mindset. If you're on our bus and you're part of our organization, you can't be exclusive. Even in women's sports, right? Everyone's like, oh, we're the exclusive provider of the Women's Hockey League. And I'm like, and I always go, why do we have to be exclusive? Like, why can't everyone buy in to different levels, right? Because when you start to be exclusive, you've put yourself in a box. So say your exclusive sponsorship, is $50,000. What if someone wants to come in and give you $150,000? You just excluded yourself from that. So anyways, like those are the kind of ways I start to think about inclusiveness, right? That's a different way of thinking about it. And then empowerment. I mean, come on, like you have to empower other people, because if you don't, if you're cutting them down, you're only hurting yourself, right? And empowerment is not just about, yeah, let's go, rah, rah. It's about, maybe by listening to them, you're empowering them. Maybe by listening to them and doing what their idea is, that's empowering them. And, you know, empowering other people, and it empowers the organization when you have this kind of mentality and mindset. And it's a different kind of leadership, I think, than some people think about leaders. You don't have to be like a manager, you know, you don't have to be a coach to be a leader. And everyone has this kind of like thought about it, right? You have to be, it's like a title, but you can lead every day, right? You can lead by voting. That was a good leadership thing. You're voting. You're representing the person. You can lead by being on the parent-teacher organization or volunteering at a food bank. Like that's being a leader. You can lead by being next to someone in the locker room when someone's being bullied and saying something. So there's different forms of leadership that I think you can do every day. And these are some of the things that I talk about. And, you know, it's not that I've discovered them. It's that I've lived them. And now I have a packaging way to talk about them. And it's my obligation as someone that can get on the mic, my brand new mic, by the way, by this company, you know, but get on the microphone and just have conversations and spread the word. So it's not that I'm anything big. I'm not. I just notice things. And I think that we all have an obligation to notice things and talk about them. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Education, inclusion, and empowerment of others.
Correct. You know, yeah, I'm sure that you do it every day, right? You do it when you're a manager. You do it when you're in the coffee shop. Like that's the thing. Like I'll be like, hey, I just saw my neighbor downstairs. I'm like, hey, got a new haircut. That looks really good. And it really did. And I wasn't being fake. But it's those little things that the next time it's just like, it just puts a smile on people's face, you know? So I don't know. It's kind of how I live my life. And, you know, it's fun.
Clearly, you've lived it well. I love that take on leadership. You can show up as a leader regardless of where you're at in life.
Yeah, and you could be an introvert and be a total leader. Like you could get online and write a blog. You know, like you don't have to have the extrovert kind of leaderships, like you know what people always think of a leader is. You know, you don't have to. It's leadership is a mindset, right? And it's an empowerment kind of mindset. And I think people. Like when I was talking earlier about don't be something you're not, I think people be like, oh, well, I'm not a leader because da 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 da. You know, yeah, you can be a leader. Like I said,
it's all a mindset.
Be on the PTO. You're a leader because guess what? Parent-teacher organization. There's so many people are just sitting there and doing nothing, right? So you sign up to be on a committee, you're doing more than them. So in my opinion, you're a leader.
Digit, I have one more question for you, and then we can turn it over to general Q&A that's coming through the chat box. By the way, put your questions in the chat box.
Yeah, ask more questions. I want to keep talking here.
You've coached hundreds of athletes by this point, maybe thousands, right, of Olympians and just world-class athletes. When you talk about mindset, right, what are some like personal development practices so people can develop their mindset when you're especially a world-class athlete?
You know, I think mindset has to be, of course, positive, you know, when you come into the locker room. It also has to be the mindset of doing the best you can every day and improving and developing. I think people think that athletics, you're just a lot of my athletes are, yes, they're born with a certain skill, but they have worked this skill for a long time and they have practiced it. I mean, I was on the phone today with one of my players' parents from Labrador, Newfoundland, and he was telling me a story about his daughter who has only slept in her bed in Newfoundland for like, I don't know, 48 days. Like he had the number from the time she was 12 years old because she had to move down to Canada to play high school hockey so she could she actually went to my alma mater, Cornell, so she could get an NCAA opportunity. And the point to that is he was telling me she used to shoot like 2,000 pucks in the backyard at 12 years old. Like these players really have this dialed in focus to get better. So I think that as those kind of athletes, I've seen that kind of mindset every day. And it could even be as simple as like what I do every day, and it's practicing good habits. Like this is my like little chart. I have my little thing. Did I do my exercise? Did I take my medicine? Did I medicate? Meditate. But I'm just saying, like these habits you have as athletes, carrying your bag every day at 5 a.m. to the hockey rink, like these kids and players really have this mindset, this winning mindset that just has taken over them. And, it helps you in life when you have this kind of athletic mindset. So a lot of athletes are patterned. They have this ability to actually take direction really well and go with it. Like if you're a third liner, your role. You're not going to complain about being on the power play if you're communicated properly to, and it, and you're going to be good at it. And that's what I found. That's the difference between performers and non-performers. It's a mental mindset. That's a winning mindset, which is I'm going to do whatever I can for the team. It's selfless. It's a dedication to honing your skills. It's a dedication to everyday life. Mind, body, spirit, healthy eating, all those kind of things really contribute to having a winning mindset and mentality.
Building on healthy habits. And you mentioned something around kind of also taking direction, which I wonder how that falls in the land of Google, where, we all kind of want to have our ideas and do our own things. But I think especially when you are playing team sports, it's also about collaboration, and you need to function well as a team. So you can't go each every direction.
Yeah. And I think the secret sauce there is it's on the manager or the person leading the conversation, right? It's like, okay, it's great to have your own ideas, but what's the end game? And I think it's important, like as a coach, I'm like, it's so simple for us. The end game is to win, right? And then I can develop a game plan around winning. And I think you can take that same approach to business in everyday life and to say, okay, what's really the end result we want out of this meeting? And you have to start it with that mindset every day. Well, the end result is we want to get this product launched. Okay. And every decision you make needs to be mission driven on that mindset. And it's like, yeah, we can have this idea, this idea, this idea. How does it apply back to that mission that you, the leader or the person leading the conversation, has identified?
Yep.
So I think you can bring a sports mindset to everything. And
I think so too. Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay, let's pivot to questions, Digit. So I have the first one here. Anna says, "Hi, Digit. I'm part of a new professional women's ultimate frisbee league. Yes. How do you market women's sports to men and singles, not just families? Did you ever run into this problem?"
Oh, God. So I think I know one of your owners, Julie Howard. Julie. She runs the program out of New York. Yeah. So the question is, put that question back up again, because, I'm old. I got to remember this question. Part of the new professional women's, how do you market women's sports to men and singles, not just families? Oh, interesting. Well, you got to have a lot of beer. No, just kidding. But no, seriously, I think that marketing it to singles and men and families instead of families, I think it just has to be marketing it around the athletes' involvement in the community. That's what we do here. Like this is really important. In the Toronto Six, what we're trying to do is engage other communities that you wouldn't normally. Artists, musicians. Like, how do you outreach to different people in the community and make it more community based? It doesn't necessarily have to be sports. Just go out and connect with other people, because I'm sure there's a lot of singles and men in all these other areas, and you just have to get out there and do. Unfortunately, right now you have to do a lot of organic growth in women's sports. It is where it is. We're in our infancy right now. But if you can engage a few of those organizations, and then you can go to their stuff, and then you start to build out your network in your community, that's where we've made a big difference. And if you look at one of the collaborations we had is with a women's clothing line called PDL. Not women's. It's a more generic clothing line, and it's kind of like for women athletes. It fits them better. They're like button downs, they have bow ties, and that kind of fashion industry kind of fit with us, and they were community members. So it's just finding more creative ways to reach out to those other areas in your community. It doesn't have to be just Frisbee people. It can be any people to engage in your product.
Yeah. I really appreciate Anna's question, because I realize I have a similar challenge running the women's group at Google. Obviously, I only attract women primarily, but I very much want to engage men in the conversation as well. And we've realized, reaching to other employee resource groups and kind of having joint talks to try to include everybody, because that's all that it's about, is just general equality, not necessarily women or men.
Yeah, I think you have to make for you, the topics don't have to be just women only, because it depends on what the topic is, because you definitely need men to help the planet succeed, just like you need women to help the planet succeed. And I think right now, for you to engage more men, you have to appreciate them and invite them. Men will just come to stuff if you invite them, and you tell them what it's about, and you don't make it like one man and like 20 women, although maybe some men would like that. But no, but I'm saying, get creative in inviting them, and maybe it is around a sporting event. Yeah. Maybe you get them involved, because men like
finding
sport.
Common ground. Yeah.
Maybe it's a Frisbee event. Play Frisbee together.
Okay, let's take Lauren's question.
Hey, Lauren.
What books do you recommend that speak to the principles you embody?
Oh, wow. There's a million of them. Go on the 6 Fix. I've read The Alchemist. That's one of my favorite. I think that I'm trying to remember all those books. I have millions of them in my Audible. Hold on. It's just I'm off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to do a million things. Here we go. Okay, so these are all the books in my Audible. I have a million of them. I know we have time. Trust me. I have these books. Again, I said The Warrior Ethos. That's what I'm reading now. I have, you're going to crack up, Fed Up. It's a woman's book. The Alchemist, Never Split the Difference. I'm reading A Team of Their Own by Seth Berkman. It's about women's, the hockey team in Korea. 5-second rule, I already said that. Simple Habits for Complex Times. Mindset. Oh, I love Mindset. Mindset was a good one by Carol Dweck. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep. I mean, I have millions of them. See, I have lots of them. So is that enough? There's many of them. I'm a self-learner. I do all my walk every day. And if I'm not talking, I listen in my earbuds.
Yeah.
You should also follow me on Instagram, 37 seconds. I do a whole series on that.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
We didn't talk about herstory either.
Talk about it.
Herstory is a women's sports it's a women's sports museum, and it's the idea of it is to tell women's stories because we don't tell them enough. And the first one that we did was down in Tampa, Florida, and we did it in the place where the 2018 gold medal team trained in the Advent Ice Arena, and it's in Tampa. And basically what it is you go into this overlook room, and there are panels on the wall committed to women's sports stories in Title IX and opportunities. And you hover over the QR code with your phone, and a story pops up. And we have a story on the first woman referee. We have a story on Digit Murphy. We have a story on Katie Stone, who was the first woman that coached the Olympic gold medal team. And Sarah DaCosta. It basically is a storytelling vehicle for women, because we don't have a Hall of Fame museum for women sports, none of that. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to make one. And my friend Jeff and I, he's the co-founder, he funded a lot of the stuff. I got the people, and we built something. That's another thing I want to tell everyone. Don't be afraid to just try something and do it. That's why I'm a serial entrepreneur. I just do stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the museum and the storytelling is just such a powerful thing, right? Because a lot of people can resonate to different parts of a story. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. It's getherstory.com, GET herstory.com. And I know there's been a lot of herstory and all that, but come look at mine. Look at mine. It's good stuff.
One more question from Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
What advice would you give to your younger self, given the life lessons you have had in your life and your career?
Don't go into women's sports. No, just kidding. I think it would be to not like what I was saying before, like negotiate. I would change jobs and companies more. Like, because I started out, I didn't go into this, but after Cornell, I worked for Data General Computers for 3.5 years. I was in logistics, and I quit my job cold turkey to go back to school, be a gym teacher, and go be a phys ed teacher. And basically, I just had a 6-month severance package, and I just quit my job. And it was because I was following my alchemist philosophy and my true self, like looking back on it. But I think that I would still do that, but I probably would have changed jobs more, like at Brown. Like I would have went to a different school earlier and kind of leveraged my experience. But I stayed at one place because of my family. And that's one thing that we didn't talk about, Bryn, was, the pay equality piece that, when you're only, when you start out with a point of your pay equality being low, you don't get your retirement. You don't save enough for your retirement because you don't put as much away because you have less that you're earning. So, I think that's another thing. I probably would put away more money. I would have thought about my retirement more because I was having 6 kids and had no money. So, but I'm rich in love, not money. What else would I do? I probably, I don't know if I would do that much different. Like I really like, I mean, we didn't go into this, and, I don't want to get into my not dirty laundry, but laundry at all. Like I was married to a man, and in 2002, I fell in love with, a woman, and I changed that. I wouldn't change that for the life of me, because, that was a different journey. So yeah, not a lot of like, I just like, here's the way I look at it, and then I'm going to shut up. I look at it like you just do in the moment what you do, and then you live life around it, and you can never look back. But yeah, not a ton of differences, just maybe change jobs, put more money away, put more money away, put more money away. Like you tell your mother, put more money away, put more money away. I could retire earlier.
With the changing jobs, I know you also think a lot about taking risks, right? And that kind of parallel. So maybe take some more risks earlier on.
Yeah. Because I think too many women stay in one place for too long, and they just think that the company's going to do the right thing. And then next thing you know, you're 50 years old, just like they did to me at Brown. They're like, oh, see ya. You make way too much money. We can go get someone else that makes less than you. I'm not saying that Google wouldn't do that. I know Google, I know you're not doing this to people, but I think that you really need to, or even within Google, you should change your jobs, right? So you can get raises. I think we stay comfortable too much as women. Get out of your comfort zone, do some different things.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Is that good?
That's great. Let's take Farah's question.
Hey, Farah.
What are the common misconceptions people have around female sports? How can we combat these misconceptions and communicate more effectively?
I think the common misconceptions are that we want to be treated like men. And I think that, that we are men. A lot of times we think it's apples to apples, and it's really apples to oranges. I think women athletes sometimes also do that. I think we need to be comfortable with women's sports being women's sports. And we need to educate the public on how women's sports are different in a good way. What we try to do at the Toronto Six is sell leadership, not just the sport, right? Yes, it's a sports entertainment product, but it's also a way to grow heroes, leaders, and role models for little boys and girls, for people in the world. So I think the common misconceptions are that women want exactly the same things as men have. And I think as women, sometimes we don't want to just accept that. We don't sometimes want to travel if we had a family and go from Florida to Portland, Oregon to go to work every day. Like we're okay with being a nester, like we're okay with having a team where we grow and integrate into the community. So I think the common misconceptions are that women want to be treated like men and be men. The other things that I think that people see, and I think a very common misconception is that women want to be included in the men's conversation. For example, I love the WNBA. I love what they're doing. I love that the NBA owns the WNBA. But as we have different iterations of women's sports, do we really want to be part of the men's sports? Do we really want to be owned by them? I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. Do we want to collaborate with them as a partner? Personally, I think the optics of having them as a partner is better. And how you grow together, getting women elevated in sport at the way women want to be elevated, not the way that men want to elevate the sport, is a conversation that needs to be had. But again, I love the WNBA. I think they've done great things for women's sports. But I think that as we grow and evolve as women's sports, do we want to be more of a collaborator and a partner with men's sports? So those are some common misconceptions in my mind.
Not something that I would expect. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, baby.
The next question comes from Joanna. And I want to say hi to Jo. Jo is actually a friend of mine. She is a Brown soccer grad.
Yeah,
and she
Brown.
Actually, when she heard that you were doing this talk with me, told me that I believe she was colleagues in school with your daughter. So she definitely knew who you were.
Oh yeah. Did she play for Phil Pinson's, I wonder? Or, who did she play for?
That I wouldn't know.
Sure she did. He was there longer than me. Of course he was. He was a man. I left before him. Anyways, what advice would you give to an ex-athlete looking for a career path that ignites their passion? Like, come work with me. Let's go. Bring it. Come with me. I'll teach you. No, I think
it's taking Googlers away from their job, Digit.
Oh yeah. No. This would just be a side hustle. No. I think it's really thinking about what you want in life. And if it's sports that does, elevate your, ignite your passion, yes. But you have to decide that for yourself, because for me, I told you, I quit cold turkey. I wanted to be a phys ed teacher. I thought sports was my passion. It ended up being the Brown assistant coach, which turned into the head coach. You're the only one that can decide what's going to ignite your passion. If it's sports, definitely get involved in a youth sporting league. They don't have enough women. They don't have enough women as administrators. They don't have enough women as coaches. There's all sorts of opportunities at the Tucker Center out in Minnesota, run by Dr. Nicole Lavoie, a friend of mine. Like, she has like lots of grad programs where, she does so many cool things with women coaches and women in sports that you could maybe get involved with. Talk offline, call me, Digit Murphy at Gmail, because I have a Gmail account. Of course I do. Just really find out what you like and then go do it, and call me anytime. I will totally help you.
That's awesome. Digit, the rest of the time, there are no more questions right now, but if they more come in live.
What the heck? Yes, for Phil. Nice. I'm not going to ask her what year. I don't want to, make her tell us how old she is. But come on, Googlers, give us some questions. That's okay. We can talk.
Digit, I have plenty more. I have plenty more questions, guys. I'm just so fascinated by your career. Is there a piece of advice that you give athletes that are starting out that maybe could apply to any women starting out in her career too?
Yes. This is what I think. I think we're too picky. I think we're too picky when we first get out of college to be like, oh, I have to have this major. I have to make sure that I'm in whatever environmental science, sustainability field, right? It's like we narrow the scope of our experience. My advice to any person getting out of college is just go get an experience that you think kind of fits into what you want to do. and make sure, it fits your, budget, and, just make sure you're making some money, get out of the house, don't live with your parents, go have your own independence. And then build that as a foundation for the next job and the next job and the next job, and own your story. I don't think enough people just own the story. It's like, yeah, like if you looked at my story, and I didn't tell you this one, I when I first got out of Cornell, I worked for Star Markets. It was like Shaw's, it's a supermarket chain, and I was in their management training program where they just take kids out of the Ivy Leagues and they put you in different areas. And I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to be in retail. I'm not working nights. I'm not working the fish department, right? So that's when I met someone else who got me the job at Data General, and I stayed there for a much longer time. But I changed, right? I took the experience. I didn't like it. I found something else. But the idea was just go do something. And then you own the story. It's like, yep, worked at Star Markets, didn't work out, went here, went there, own your story. People like it, and tell it when you're in the interview.
And you can connect it.
It doesn't have to be perfect. I think people get, what is it? Analysis paralysis, whatever. Just do something.
Just do it. Digit, here's a great question from Daniela about your story, actually. So she's another brown athlete. She asks about what scared you the most, right? So she says, you've taken some amazing leaps in your career journey. Oof. What's the one that scared you the most that worked out? Or a follow-up question also from her, what was the risk that scared you that didn't work out?
Oh my God.
And with hindsight, you would have adjusted.
I sometimes don't know if they worked out or not. It depends on what success is, right? I mean, I wish that, some of my harebrained schemes worked out and made me $1 million, but then I wouldn't be here telling the stories of resilience, right? I was on the phone this morning with Aranda, my partner, and she's like, you'd be a millionaire, if they paid you in effort. And I'm like, yeah, too bad I'm not a millionaire. No, I think I remember, I think we talked about it earlier off camera here, was speaking, like public speaking was something that I really had to evolve into. And I've bombed on the stage a couple times, and you just got to keep getting on the horse. So I think that's one thing. I know it's something that I've haven't always been good at, and I've gotten better at. But as far as like taking risks, the China thing was an experience. I think it could have ended better. They just didn't jive with my vibe. Like my vibe was.
Can you tell us more about the China experience? Because we really didn't touch on that.
Yeah. It was an experience where we were taking the concept of women's hockey to China to make them a more competitive program for the 2022 Olympic Games. So in 2017, I was hired by a really awesome owner named Billy Nook. And he wanted to take Chinese women's hockey to another level. And they hadn't been good since 1998. And they were like number 4 in the world. And they dropped off to like number 40, whatever. So we ended up having 294 total women's hockey players in China. That's it. In the whole country of billions of people, whatever many millions they have. So we had to take those 294 and try to make them competitive for the 2022 Olympics game. And my philosophy when I got there was to make these players understand the game and think the game. And China's philosophy was you should probably, whip them into shape. I don't mean whip, but you know what I mean? Like make them do more. More is better. And for me, it was a very different mindset than what I have, because my whole mindset is teach the players how to play the game and then let them play. Mm-hmm. So, I think that taking that risk over to China was awesome, but not having it work out and last through the 2022 Olympic series was a disappointment. And, it was more of that collaboration with that culture that really disappointed me. But you still had to take the risk. You still had to be able to assess why it didn't work. And I think that's about growing, with those opportunities. And I'll tell you right now, I could do a whole story about China and their culture, but I know we're going to run out of time. But it wasn't really a failure. It was just a disappointment. But most of the things that I do, luckily enough, and I think because of my attitude, my authenticity, and my energy, they end up being a pretty good feel-good approach. I mean, we're not making millions of dollars, people, but we're making progress, and that's what is important to me.
Yeah. But in hindsight, to the China story, would you have done anything differently? Would you have adjusted looking back in any way?
I think, it's interesting. I think sometimes if you adjust looking back, you compromise your own core values, right? And I wasn't willing to, like, they wanted to practice more for the players. It's only, 8 hours in the day, right? If you were on the ice for 4 hours a day, my players' legs would fall off and you definitely wouldn't win a hockey game. So I could not coach Chinese. Like they said, Digit, you have to coach Chinese. I'm like, no, I don't. I just coach hockey. I don't coach Chinese, American,
Right.
Canadian. I just coach hockey. So, if I had compromised or changed, I think that the result would have been the same and I wouldn't have been following my true self. So it would have been a double bad thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe there's a couple things I would have changed, but not much.
Not
Because I
different.
still had fun. Like go to my Instagram, you guys. Go to @DigitMurphy. There's some good stuff. I would broadcast the game live. I would sing the national anthem. Like we had so much fun, and we exposed those Chinese players to things they had never. And I just want to say one more thing that we did with one of the players. This is a good story. So Big Lou, she almost didn't play hockey for us, and she was this Chinese woman that was going to quit. And we brought the joy back to hockey for her because we had 2 words: enjoy and May Wenti was our culture. Enjoy was enjoy. No matter what, you were going to enjoy the experience. And May Wenti meant no problem. If you make a mistake, there's no problem. And at the beginning, she was very lost. And at the end, I said, so Big Lou, what are you going to do after hockey? Because they don't know what life after hockey looks like out there because it's their job and their families depend on the money. I think I'm going to own a restaurant. And I was like, yes, because she saw a future beyond hockey. We empowered her to think differently. We gave her a little bit more of an American mindset. So to me, that was success in my mind. And I wouldn't have done anything different. So
enjoy and no problem.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
No problem.
I think maybe we have time for one more question, and we'll make this one the last. And it comes from Dennis, your favorite Googler.
Woo-woo.
So for men who want to be better allies, where do you think men can make the most impact?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, Dennis. I think support us not only in words, but in, actions. Like men have more access to capital in general. Like when you see women's ideas and initiatives, support them. I think it's listen with a more empathetic ear to what we experience, because everyone has a mother, so they can certainly empathize with the female, side of the brain. And just, it's more like support us instead of tell us what to do. It's like, I think sometimes as women, we just listen to men. I mean, not all of us. And I'm sure there's a lot of young women going, don't say that. I don't listen to men. I'm not saying don't listen, but I'm saying don't just do what people tell you. Do what you think is right. And I think men can support us in letting women be women. Don't try to make us fit into your system. And we didn't even talk about the way the system, because we talked off camera for a long time, Bryn, about how the system holds women back. And I think men have to be open to new ways of learning, and they need to be open to a female voice, and they need to be open to female leadership. And I think they are. And I think and I also think that men in hiring positions need to hire more women, because your teams are going to be more productive. Your companies are going to be more productive. And when that happens, the whole world's more productive.
Yeah. Many studies have been done around that. So
is that a mic drop? Was that a mic drop right there? Are we done? Just kidding.
I think that's a great note to end on. So Dennis, thank you for ending on that note. Digit, I can't thank you enough. This has been invaluable for offering us your time and just being so vulnerable about your experience. And For everybody who tuned in, I hope this was a highlight in your day. I hope you're leaving inspired and energized to just be authentic, be your true selves, and be inclusive of everybody else, regardless of race, gender, background, and what have you. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, Bryn.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.